Hello drivers, Dr. Nuesse from EasyDOTphysicals.com back again with another video. This video is specifically going to cover the regulations surrounding drivers who have had a stroke and need to take the DOT physical. So if you've previously had a stroke, if you've had a stroke in the past and now need to take the DOT physical, the Department of Transportation physical, this is going to be the video to watch. And included in this will be strokes of any kind. So a stroke or a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, sometimes called a mini stroke. They are both treated basically the same by the FMCSA. So the reason that TIAs, mini strokes, are lumped in with strokes and treated basically the same by the FMCSA is the research suggests that if you have a TIA, you have a 1 in 3 chance of having an actual stroke in the future. And 50% of the time, 50% of these people that will have a stroke in the future after having a TIA have it within the first year after their TIA. So again, if we think of what the Department of Transportation physical is trying to do, what it is trying to do is prevent people from being dangerous on the road. And one of the main dangers to a driver and to the safety of others that they are driving around is losing consciousness. And obviously having a stroke while driving would be a major concern. All right, so what is going to happen if you're a driver and you go in to take your DOT physical and you mark that you've had a stroke in the past? Now first, we've got to be clear that a stroke can be accompanied by a seizure. And if you have a seizure, that is a completely separate issue. That will take precedence. I have done a complete video on seizures and drivers who have had seizures and a history of seizures and epilepsy in a previous video. That video is accurate. So if you've had a seizure, the stroke part won't matter all that much. The seizure really takes precedence, so please watch that video. This would just be if you've had a stroke or, again, a transient ischemic attack. So the FMCSA is pretty clear with their guidance to the medical examiners, to the doctors performing the exam, and they suggest that first there should be a 1-year waiting period from the time you had the stroke or the TIA before you can get a medical card. And then secondly, they also recommend strongly that a neurologist clears that driver to drive commercially. So a neurologist that is familiar with the condition that the driver has and their health history, they actually clear them to drive commercially. Now, both of those, they're called guidance. It is a strong suggestion by the FMCSA. It's not an absolute rule. But I will tell you, when a medical examiner, when a doctor hears from a government agency that they strongly recommend that they do something, what we hear is liability. We hear that if we don't do it, we could potentially be held liable. So it's basically treated as a regulation, this 1-year waiting period. So in almost all cases, you are going to have to wait 1 year from the time you had a stroke or a TIA before you can get a medical card, before you can pass the DOT physical. So let me give you an example just to make this crystal clear so there's no confusion. Let's say a driver 7 months ago had a stroke and they have been seeing a neurologist, and their neurologist 2 months ago clears them for full duty. They clear them, they say it's safe for them to drive, there are no restrictions. And then that driver, 2 months later from being cleared, comes in and takes their DOT physical, and they have a letter from that doctor stating that they have been cleared to drive, they have no restrictions. You are most likely, in almost 100%, maybe I'll say 99 out of 100 times, you are still not going to be able to pass the DOT physical, because the FMCSA strongly suggests that after having a stroke or a TIA, you wait 1 year, even if cleared by a neurologist. So again, I don't know how much more clear I can make that. This again boils down to safety. One, again, I just talked about the research. The most risk, the highest risk for having another event is 1 year from the time you had that original event, from the time you had that stroke or that TIA. So that's why that 1 year waiting period exists, is because that's when the risk is highest to have another event. And then number 2, it's about liability. So if the FMCSA strongly suggests something like a 1 year waiting period, the doctors are going to abide by that because there is potentially a liability issue there. So please leave me any questions that you have in the comment section below. I will try to answer those. And until next time, drivers, stay safe.